And by us navigating that challenge or that shadow or whatever that is, the key that unlocks the other side, is also a beautiful example for other people.
Welcome to the Inspired Focus Podcast. This is Jamie O'Connor. Welcome to the Inspired Focus Podcast. This is Jamie O'Connor, and I'm really excited to bring on our guest today. I was fortunate enough to read one of the books that he co-authored at a time in my life where I was in major transition, and it was really beautiful and life-changing. And he has moved on to do some really incredible things and be serving the world today with amazing wisdom that I'm excited for him to share with you today. Lane is a curious explorer, harmonious creator, and storyteller. Oh my gosh, I love that description so much. And it's so true when you follow you on the social media, the things you share that's a perfect description. He has co-authored Unleash Your Humble Alpha, host of Exactly What the Moment Called For podcast, and creator of the Joyful Sovereignty Experience. Whew, having trouble today. Lane spent 12 years in the Army, most of which as a Green Beret. And with his 40 plus countries traveled, he's uniquely harmonized the hardened combat Green Beret side of him with the nurturing side of the spiritual path. And I can tell you, having only had the opportunity to sat once on a call with Lane, that is such a beautiful experience that is encaptured in those two sides. Like there's this beautiful, strong structure with a really nurturing spiritual side that I experienced on that call years ago. And already in our catch up so far, I've experienced. And I am really looking forward to what this conversation brings out, because I think that'll really show here. Lane, welcome. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, I think we should just get started with where we were kind of chatting before, which is what is alive and present for you right now, today, what you're experiencing, and then let the conversation flow from there.
Yeah, so I'm in a self-mastery experiment with myself, and it's guiding me towards really looking at my life and assessing what the present moment is giving me, and really just doing my best to be present, to heal myself, to be a positive influence of everyone around me. And what that's really leading me to is this, macro mission of supporting family leaders, heading towards joyful sovereignty with the process of self-mastery. And so I'm experimenting with it myself, and I'm leaving breadcrumbs for, me to potentially help other people in different kinds of ways. So that's the big thing that's going on for me.
I mean, that's beautiful. I think it shows true leadership in, experimenting for yourself versus like learning something really quickly and then immediately being like, this is the way, but like really embodying what you're learning.
Yeah.
And, what started to bring you here? Like what started this process? I think you've been in self-mastery for a long time and learning that's true. But what kind of led you to wanting to create the experiences you're creating right now?
Yeah. So my self-mastery journey probably began with special forces. And so I had to learn a lot of different things. I had to master a lot of skills. And through that process of learning these different skills that have nothing to do with each other, I learned myself how to learn. And that mastery was more of the personal development, skill acquisition, and it had a purpose behind it. When I got out of the military, I shortly found myself pulled towards the spiritual path, and I wasn't looking for it. It basically pulled me, yanked me down to Peru, and then started going on that path and integrating the feminine energy, the surrender, and then as I was moving down the spiritual path, I noticed that the hard charged, the precise, the pinpointed, purposeful focus of the energy that I had with, like, especially this masculine energy with the military,
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't going to get the job done in the spiritual path, because
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn how to surrender. I had to learn how to go with the flow. I had to embrace this femininity, and it was a difficult challenge. But there's a paradox here that I really poured all of my intense masculine focus towards the feminine. And so it's this paradox to where we can use the both sides of this duality to get to the other side. So I knew my focus was embracing the feminine, but I did so in a very masculine way, and that opened up this opportunity for me to explore it. And then I was able to harmonize both this masculine and feminine mastery. And it's definitely a dance, and I'm still learning about it. I'm still embodying it. And that's really my main focus, is to, receive the vision of whatever I think I might be moving towards, and then experimenting with myself and embodying it. Because during that process, I'm unembodying the trauma, unembodying the patterns, the programming from childhood up until now that are no longer serving me, and now replacing that and embodying more joyful way of life, more sovereign way of life, more curious driven living, and to be able to embrace all of these different aspects that I can sense and I can feel. I can envision myself moving forward in life. And as I'm experimenting and embodying that, it becomes something that I don't have to think about, and it becomes something that I can radiate and emanate from anything that I do or don't do. And I can just be the example of that which I'm embodied. And a lot of times I get people talking to me about, hey, when you did this, it really inspired me to do that, or all these kind of things, where I wasn't trying to say anything, or wasn't trying to be share a message all the time. But what they pulled out of my example from my beingness, that's what they needed. And so we're all doing that for each other. And so if we embrace our authentic curiosity, and have the courage to express that, then we're able to be the example that we want to see in the world, and also inspire other people to be their version of authenticity or curiosity driven life.
I think one of the things I heard you say in that is really powerful is this idea of non-attachment to how people take whatever you're doing, like doing it for the sake of your beingness, of your experience, and allowing that to land first within you, and then trusting that may land significantly for someone else, but it doesn't really matter if it does. Like, having a non-attachment to that is really important.
Yeah. And I think that non-attachment allows for less judgment of self, less, because a lot of times when we're comparing ourselves to other people, it's like, oh, well, they started out with this, that made their journey easier. Or they're looking at any way in which the mind can criticize or judge or compare. That's what the mind can do. It can be programmed to do that. And a lot of us growing up in society, there's division, there's intentional agenda and bias in the media and other organizations that are out there that are trying to take away our power. And by us letting go of all that and embracing the full spectrum of life and letting go of judgment, it allows us to, again, not be attached to what other people's opinions are. Or the other side of it is the being judged for something great that you do, being judged for something wonderful that you did, and yes, celebrate your wins, celebrate the awesome things and the messages that you share. But if you're leaving yourself susceptible to attaching yourself to what other people think about you, or the opinions, even if it is good stuff. And sometimes we absolutely need that. We're human. We're on this roller coaster journey, and embrace celebration and receive, the good things that people are reflecting to you. But also, there's a certain deep knowing that even with all of that, that that's not what's going to fulfill you. It's that self-authorized fulfillment, that self-authorized appreciation for self. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely not an easy thing, you know.
Yeah.
There's so many ways in which we can succumb to that, but yeah.
The ability to be proud within yourself and like know that the flip side, like you just said, of you can be deeply proud and allow other people to even take it as not good, their own opinions, and not allow that to affect you, just like that, like not allow the desire for people to like something. It's the same thing, flip side of the same coin, basically. Being able to be really self-authored and self driven in your ability for fulfillment is, I mean, it's an inner journey, obviously, and it's a really powerful one that I think a lot of people crave without actually even knowing they crave it, because they're experiencing this like shame and this judgment because of the attachment to the outside world's opinions and thoughts that are happening.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
Yeah. And it's a continuous journey. And the
yeah.
cool thing is that my philosophy with joyful sovereignty is that that's the trajectory that I'm heading. And knowing that there is no final destination, there's definitely milestones. But the reason why I like to use trajectory is that it's just a direction, you know?
Yeah.
The byproduct is that as we're moving forward on this kind of trajectory, everything that is hindering that trajectory or that path is revealed or brought to us, you know? And so again, when I spoke about observing what the present moment is offering me, that's my work, you know? So if I look around in my life and say, what is present and what is offering me liberation, you know, i.e. triggers, i.e. shadow work, i.e. Even great things, you know? But oftentimes we don't really look at the shadow or that side of the spectrum of life as much, because we almost want to avoid it. And, you know, it's natural in the human experience for, you know, to do that. But yeah, being present and really asking yourself honestly, what's happening and what challenges am I going through? And that's the liberation moments. You know, those are the points in which if we settle the score, if we allow that trauma to be expressed in whatever way it wants to be expressed, you know, us listening to that and allowing it to be free, we liberate ourselves in the meantime, not just our body or where that trauma is being held or in our mind, wherever. So, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things related to all of this that you had mentioned a little bit at the beginning before we actually got onto the recording was about the idea of the attachment to one outcome, even though there's several outcomes that could happen. And I can see, you know, where we keep ourselves from really feeling deeply fulfilled or feeling deep joy in our circumstances, because we're like, it has to be this. And yet there's a quantum number of potential options there, but we may even see 5 or 6, right? There's 5 or 6 options we can see and we get attached to one. Talk to me a little bit about what that experience is for you right now and what's coming up with that. Cause it sounds like maybe that's one of those shadows you're seeing in yourself that you're working through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in the past, I would have a vision of whatever I was creating, and then I would basically lock into that and I'd put intense focus on it. And in hindsight, when I look back, I noticed there were a lot of things, people, connections, ideas, expansions of the vision that I was ignoring because I was so focused on that one single vision, you know, that moment, that static moment in time. And it's only in hindsight that I realized that life was trying to give me upgrades at every single step of the way. But I was basically saying, nope, I don't want to upgrade the vision. I don't want to upgrade my joy in life and making it easier and all this kind of stuff. But when I finally realized that, I started to embrace, you know, this multiple timeline or this multiple visions there's a probable future for all these different things, and a lot of it's nuanced, and so like one of the things that I'm building now is that it could be an app, it could be a program or a template on Notion, it could be a couple of other things. And right now I'm just syncing with the feeling of, okay, it could be a lot of things, but what am I doing now? And by really being present and focused now, I'm able to give it the depth and the texture and the flavor that it's wanting to be seen and wanting to be explored by different kinds of perspectives, different conversations, different kinds of feedback. And what I'm experiencing is that all of that, presence in this moment, doing what I'm doing, is unfolding so much more for the project or for this, this product in the long term. And so that's, that's kind of a more business kind of perspective. But, we've kind of talking about it before, is that by me letting go of a single timeline or an outcome, I'm opening myself up to upgrades. And I'm also trusting myself in the meantime, because what I was telling you before is that I was getting attached to a single timeline or a single goal, and that was giving me false sense of security, false certainty of this is my path. And what was really happening is I wasn't trusting myself and I wasn't trusting life. And knowing that we live in a chaotic world, there's a lot of shifting happening in the world. Humanity's evolving in certain kinds of ways. Systems are, rising that are for humanity. Systems are falling or falling to the wayside. So there's a lot of shifting and a lot of chaos. And so being able to have a sense of peace or a sense of trust within yourself, that no matter what life looks like, whatever unfolds for you, and sometimes it's unexpected, sometimes it's a surprise, sometimes it could be really, really wonderful, sometimes it could be really shockingly challenging, and
Totally.
all of those things are part of the full spectrum of life that are guiding us in our path, the way, and somewhere in the middle. Most of us don't live in this very, very extreme like bliss. Most of us don't live in this very, very extreme, hardship, especially people that are listening to this, they're somewhere in the middle, and we dance between all that spectrum. So yeah, it's been a beautiful, liberating feeling to let go of this, false sense of certainty, through just hard driving or just like being like static with my vision, and then allowing the upgrades, the refinement, the calibration, for all of this, beautiful unfolding to happen. And so for me, it's more about this process of the present moment, and that mastery of the process allows for you to be unstoppable. It allows for you to be, to anything to happen in your life, and you're okay with it because you've mastered the process of life. You mastered this like being present, mechanism, so to speak.
There's something so powerful and profound about really actually connecting to what present moment awareness is. Like in this chaotic world, and I know I experienced this as a parent, like you have this thing where you're like, oh, I have to be more present, I have to be more present. But we don't actually know what that means. Like we don't actually know what it means to be more present until we start exploring these ideas and start thinking about, well, actually present moment awareness is sort of attached to non-attachment, because we want to be able to be willing and open to whatever thing comes and trust ourselves and life and the decisions that are coming, and the connection to our intuition to make that decision, to know in our guts, oh yeah, no, that's a good left turn right now. I'm going to take that left turn instead of continuing straight down this path because of this like connection over here. There's something really powerful to start contemplating in that and start accepting what comes from that, like you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's almost like you become a master of time, because I've thought about this, a lot. And one of the things that comes up when I think about being present is when you're present, most of the time, there's still little wisps of future or past, like memories of the past, or things that are going to happen or potentially happening in the future. And so you have these wisps or these like little etheric like connections of something that's outside of this very uber present moment. And I think that it's definitely like cool and okay, especially in the human experience, to play with time like that. And knowing that the more that we are present, we're actually unfolding more textures of what we can remember from the past that is advantageous for us in the present moment. And so, like, if we, just as an example, the body, whatever is embodied in the present moment is. And so if we are holding on to trauma, from a memory from the past, we still have the energetic trauma within our bodies. And if we have, a certain mindset of anxiety about the future, that's actually embodied in our nervous system in the present moment. And so if we're present, especially in maybe this healing context, we're allowing ourselves to, if we need to remember something from the past that is embodied in our body that is no longer needed or is holding us back or hindering expansion of who we are, then we can dance like in the present moment and like kind of have this string of the past that wants to be expressed and remembered, and receive that, and then allow it to be moved outside of the body and let go of. And the same thing with the future. And so if we have a vision for what we're creating in the future and an insight or an idea comes to mind in the present moment, we're able to receive that etheric, kind of wispy vision and bring it to our awareness in the present moment. And then we can do something with that in subsequent present moments. So I think that if we know that the present moment, we can allow ourselves to look at the past and look at the future in a way and embrace all of it as this eternal present moment context, then we're able to allow life to work through us, live through us, and experience the joy and the beauty and the impact that we know is our North Star, and whatever we decide for that to look like, we're co-creating that with life itself. So we have our own like version of like, yeah, this is what I'm feeling in my heart. This is, and then also life is like, yes, that sounds perfect, and let me help you refine it. Let me help you make it a reality, in a faster, more easier, gentle way. And so we have that available in the present moment.
Wow. There's so many things you just said there that are so amazing and powerful and really like insightful for how that works, how the present moment works, and how we are embodying those things on both sides in really powerful ways. One of the things that I was thinking about in that and before when you were talking is with this idea of like vision, like you were talking about with what you're working on now, joyful sovereignty, but in general for anyone, that could be business or the vision for life. The idea of kind of zooming out from a vision of an item. Like, for instance, I've had this vision for years of like this house on a beach where I see my family coming up from the beach after surfing, and I have this sense that I'm getting ready for a group of people to come join me and do deep work for, a few days. Like I like kind of have this overall feeling of the experience that I've kind of had in meditations a few different times where I'm like, okay. And I have found myself getting really attached to the idea of the house on the beach versus the idea of what that experience is, of what the experience of life that I'm actually aiming to create. And so from what you've talked about, from a tangible sense, there's the path of the house on the beach is what I'm aiming for. And so like getting like really tunnel visioned into the house on the beach is the thing versus actually connecting to like the deep experience I'm having in that meditation, in that vision within my body, within life, the life that I'm creating in that. It's not actually the house on the beach. It's the experience of it. And if we can connect and embody the experience of it, that then allows us to not say like, oh no, I always have to be looking for a house on the beach. I can be looking for the wisps, as you said, that give me, oh, that gets me closer to the experience I'm trying to create. That one gets me closer to the experience I'm trying to create. And like allow ourselves to be open to all of the wisps that are both holding us back from the traumas before and allow ourselves to process those, as well as the wisps that are coming up that are like, because it might take me really far from the beach, because that's actually not the thing. It's not the house on the beach at all.
Yeah. So I think that deep appreciation for the moment, deep appreciation for the process is probably the most anchored thing that we could do to actually enjoy this, because who we are in the present moment will continue to reflect and reverberate as we move forward with subsequent present moments. And if we're in this moment feeling like I can't wait to be in the future of this beach house, as an example, whatever it is, like,
yeah,
there's an essence of, I want to be somewhere else. I want to be in a different moment. And so, yes, this is where the self-mastery process comes into play, because if we can find this sweet spot of, I really love this moment and for what it is, and we have this spectrum of different experiences and different kinds of moments. So like right now we're on a podcast, but then, 2 hours from now, we might be hanging out with family, and so that's going to be a different kind of present moment that we're going to truly cherish and appreciate because of what it is. But, so if we're talking about goal setting, there's a couple of things. And one of the things is the vision for a future probable self, like whatever that, a goal that you're aiming for, is telling something about yourself, one, and two, it is helping you try to spark that kind of feeling or experience. And so if we have, that kind of goal or that kind of vision of like, yeah, that's definitely part of it. Right. So like you were saying, is like, what is that feeling is this goal is going to provide for you? And if we can be strategic enough to where we're pulling that type of feeling from that experience or goal that we want to have, and we can bring it into the present moment, then we're able to then have some kind of path that's leading us towards that. One, we're having this energetic story. So like today, we're feeling, grateful. We're feeling appreciative for what that experience is going to bring. And as we get closer to it, to that actual like physical, tangible experience, we're moving ourselves closer to that embodiment or to that feeling. And we can move ourselves in that direction every single day. And so if we're talking about goals, chunking things down and actually experiencing on a consistent basis, like you were saying, what the feeling is. So if anybody's listening to this, if they take the top 3 goals that they're thinking about, and it could be one business, one life, and then one like, family related goal, right? And if we break those down and it's like, what are those different goals want? What am I trying to feel? When I experience those? And then if we take the essence of that and then we chunk it down into a path that seems like it will lead us to those experiences, but we embrace the journey to that physical experience. We're actually living that feeling more and more and more. And oftentimes what I've found is in extreme cases for me, I have been afraid of beautiful bliss. I have been afraid of this incredible, I don't want to say ecstasy, but just this overwhelming feeling of just incredible deep peace and joy. And I noticed that it was because of my nervous system couldn't handle it, wasn't ready for it. And so
didn't have the capacity.
And so as we're moving forward, what is happening oftentimes is that we're allowing our nervous system to actually fully appreciate and experience that incredible feeling of like bliss. Like when you get to the beach house, you're just like, oh my God, like this is so incredible. Like I feel so good. And now when you actually physically experience it, you're actually able to fully feel it. And you're not working at, a quarter capacity of joy, a quarter capacity of appreciation, that you can actually feel it. And you're not actually overwhelmed, or in my case, I was afraid of deep peace, so there's a lot of things going on here. And the physicality of the experience and your body and nervous systems are directly correlated to being able to handle that capacity of the good stuff. So being able to enjoy this process, enjoy the journey, embracing that experience, healing yourself as you're doing it, you're able to, by the time you actually get to those really, big milestone, goals that you hit, you're actually able to be present. Otherwise, you're going to continue the cycle of once you get to the goal.
The goalpost.
Exactly. Yeah. And so many, especially people that are achievers and people that have, have great business acumen, they're unwitting or they're unaware that this is what continues to happen until, you experience it yourself. And
it's interesting because this actually came up on another podcast I just recorded. And I said something to that extent of like, one of the problems is we always move the goalpost. And I do actually think that is a problem, exactly as you said. And there's nothing wrong with setting new goalposts as long as we're learning how to deeply appreciate the things we experience at the same time. Otherwise, it's constant seeking and it's constant searching and it's constant like need to both heal, right? Like I think we see this on both sides. We see the desire to like constantly be like improving and healing as well as constantly be achieving.
Yeah.
And being able to connect deeper with the present moment is one of the ways that we can still achieve and yet be like in deep joy as you're talking about within both the journey and the achievements.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to share is if anybody that's listening isn't familiar with the false summit, it's like when you're climbing a mountain and you think that that's the top of the mountain, you are climbing it. You're like, oh, that's the top. And then finally, once you get to this summit or this peak, you realize that it's not the top of the mountain that you thought it was. There's actually a higher point. And so that's kind of how I look at goals, is that if we reach this false summit, so to speak, there's always another journey. There's always another leg of the journey or the travel. And it doesn't always have to be the constant like upping everything. But as we move forward, the way I look at, vision or new goals is that goal was intended for that moment and it was supposed to help you get to that point. Right. And so like, as an example, if someone started on this journey and they looked at the actual mountain, they're like, "Mo, that's way, way, way too high. I don't think I can do it." They feel overwhelmed. They feel like they're not up for the challenge. They don't feel worthy to go on this journey. But they look at that false summit and they're like, "Oh, that's going to be pretty hard, but I think I can do that." And so they go on the journey. They start. They take it step by step, day by day. And then finally, once they arrive to the false summit, they've built up the skill set of climbing a mountain. They've learned the technical aspects of, traversing or navigating X, Y, and Z. And by the time they get to the false summit, they feel prepared. They feel ready enough to like, well, I've already gotten this far. I can actually go up that way. So I think that life gives us just enough rope, for us to like move forward on the path. And it's almost like, life is, dangling a carrot for us to like go for, and sometimes it looks, it shifts, right? So like the purpose of having a vision in one single moment, we don't know exactly what that might be. Like it could be a potential collaboration with another business. And through that exploration of what that collaboration could look like, 5 or 6 like brilliant ideas, pop out, and we don't know exactly why they popped out. But then you realize, okay, this person may not, or this, organization, business, whatever, isn't going to be my collaborative partner. But through the exploration of that collaboration, I learned this about myself. I learned what I like about collaboration, what I want to see in another organization and business, and what I don't want to see, the contrast of like, okay, that's definitely what I don't want to partner with. Right. But you didn't know that if you never would have just gone for it and just had exploration conversations. Right. So, the vision of having a partnership or a collaboration with this two businesses, as in this example, the actual, vision of it could look like some X, Y, and Z, but you were maybe needing to learn about collaboration itself, and know about how you want to collaborate, how you don't want to collaborate. And that was the whole point of that. So again, when we're talking about getting, stuck on a single timeline or a goal, this is where two businesses that, could have collaborated, one of them or both of them were like dead set on, honoring their word of creating this vision into reality, when maybe life was just offering them like, hey, this is an experience, an opportunity for you to understand collaboration. So that way, when the true collaborative partner comes into the space 3 months later, 2 months later, or whatever, you're actually ready, because I know myself, I know how I want to collaborate, I know what kind of collaborative partners I want to attract. And then now you're ready, and now you have this alignment, now you have this coherence, and now you can move forward and actually have this partner, that you're consciously aware of. And of course, there's always more, to explore. There's more to
Totally.
Yeah. So
it's never ending. There's never actually an end to the journey. And if we can embody that idea, that I think is like the base core idea we need to embody is to be able to do all of this. One of the things I think that kind of circles around a lot of what you've talked about, that I've been exploring a lot, is around the idea of capacity, like nervous system capacity, ability to actually enjoy these things, not being afraid or any of the other feelings that can come up, because creating that capacity within ourselves also comes from expanding our capacity to when we process the traumas and we go through the healing and we actually are willing to step through that door. Like the ability to process and experience life on the joy is equal in like duality to our ability to process the difficult parts that are holding us back.
Yeah.
What has your experience in that been with all of this for you?
Yeah, so that's what I mean by the full spectrum of life. And so like if we have this arbitrary neutrality in the middle, and then to the degree in which you can navigate challenge and hard stuff, and the shadow is to the degree in which you can receive that and feel that joy. And so I think a lot of people live in this kind of medium, not really, they're suffering, but they're not really, doing the deep work. They're not navigating the hard stuff. And to the same degree in which they're avoiding that, they're not going to be able to experience that, incredible joy, myself included. So that's why, when I brought up that I was afraid of joy, is because I was not looking at certain aspects of my life, and a big part of that was resentment for my father, and I didn't really knew I had it as deep as I did until I started to look at it really honestly. And so it's, I think that embracing the full spectrum, knowing that the shadow, the challenge, all those things that we've experienced in our past, those are the actual key to beautiful states of joy, beautiful states of peace, beautiful states of love. And it's the key that unlocks that other side of the spectrum. So if we embrace that, then it's one aspect of the journey. And I think that, if you have the courage to go into those places, to address and to look at your fears and your shadows head on, and do so in really beautiful containers where people that have gone through difficult challenges, that have gone through the struggle, have gone through the fear, that can support you. They can't do anything for you, but they can support you and create a container for you to reveal your own power, your own truth, your own healing. And I think that we are just all continuously on that kind of journey.
Yeah, totally. I have personally found that the areas where I hold the most almost societal shame about how I feel about something, and therefore it really lives in a shadow. Like it really is locked away in a basement of a house somewhere. Because of the idea that if I actually admit that thing, if I actually admit how I sometimes feel about my mother, or that I, you know, whatever the item is, there's so many that come up for so many people. I know one that a lot of moms feel that they won't actually face is like the desire to not be mom is a big one, right? Like they have this actual like days where they hate it and they don't, and it's so repressed and it's so like pushed down in their psyche and in their bodies, which I come to believe that the psyche is actually in the body, not in the mind. Those are these things, and I'm saying this from the perspective of people listening of, okay, how do I even start to explore some of that? One, a safe container, like you said, Lane, like having people around you that can hold that space and allow you to go into that, knowing you're kind of held and safe and supported and not going to be judged for it and not going to be from the outside. Because let's be real, you're already judging yourself more deeply than needing anyone else to add shame to that witness, but witness you and your experience and witness you and whatever has caused the shame. Those things, the things that we hold so much shame about, that like, what is wrong with me that I think that, tend to be the keys to the areas where we can be like, oh, okay. And on the other side of that, if we're willing to walk all the way through those and be guided through those, typically like our greatest medicine exists for ourselves, like the greatest medicine for ourselves and the greatest medicine that is the medicine for us to serve other people in whatever way that is, whether you're in business, whether you're a parent, or you're in service of holding space for other people. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And by us navigating that challenge or that shadow or whatever that is, the key that unlocks the other side, is also a beautiful example for other people. Because when we see somebody navigate something that seems impossible at the time, we're like, I can't see myself overcoming this challenge. But yet we see somebody else that has overcome something is very similar or just as arduous or difficult. It actually says, okay, maybe I can navigate this. Maybe I can, move through this journey, have the courage to look at this thing head on and liberate myself and see what it feels like on the other side. And so, by all of us, getting into these containers, and that's why, retreats are so beautiful, to where every single person has something difficult that they're going through, or some challenge, and a lot, and especially in specific containers where the frequency is of empowerment. And yes, we're here to do work, but yes, we're here to play. Yes, we're, a specific kind of cocktail, right? And
you need the play. That part is really important.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm actually deeply exploring, because eventually us as creators and experiencers, if we just hypothetically look at like, okay, if we let go of all the trauma, like what are we going to be doing? Like there's no more quote work to do. We're going to play, and I believe that's our natural state. And I believe that the shadow and the human experience that we navigate is part of the play. It's part of the game that we are not quite aware of, or we haven't fully embodied that truth. because, if we didn't have any trauma and we never could have trauma, we wouldn't have these ups and downs. We wouldn't have these emotions. We wouldn't have this full spectrum of experience. And so for me, embracing the fullness of the whole spectrum and knowing that, yeah, shadow work, hard times, but if we can take a step back and embrace the full spectrum, I feel like this divine playfulness, starts to emerge, and we start to let go of the seriousness of the shadow. We're like, oh man, that's because you can feel it when someone's talking about something really traumatic, and yes, it is, and yes, let's honor that. Let's keep it sacred. But also there's a part of the journey when we embrace play that we can actually allow laughter and the irony of it all to be the best medicine. We can literally laugh it out of our bodies. And whenever we are done with that, purge via play and laughter, it allows for us to just feel this void of ourselves, like we empty that trauma, and then we replenish ourselves with ourselves, and we're able to, move forward on our journey.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Play is so important, and it's a huge part of the process that I think a lot of people miss when they go on they start to explore this kind of healing path. So I love that you're talking about that and bringing that in. How are you bringing that into your containers? Because I know that you're creating some containers with the Joyful Sovereignty Experiment and what you're doing in this. So what are some things that you're doing to serve people in that way through what you're creating?
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing is embodying it, in my quote regular life. So I hang out with my nephews all the time, hang out with family. My sister and I have created this, playful way to explore nature. Like we went to this rock shop, and we got this specific crystal that when you look at it, it has these kind of like different little peaks, like a whole bunch of small little peaks, and then has like a big one and then like a medium sized one. And for us, it was like, okay, this is our like yearly adventure rock. And so like each little tiny peak represents like a little trip. And then, a bigger one represents a bigger trip for the family, so just finding little tiny ways to do that. And then I think the biggest work that I'm doing with like in more of the professional sense is shifting the mindset of curiosity and play. And so a lot of times people find it really difficult to prioritize themselves. And so as an example, they can go, if they have a meeting at 6 a.m. because of work or because of somebody else's priority or somebody else's schedule, they're willing to get up and show up for that meeting or that thing. Right. But then when you ask them, hey, do you do that for yourself? It's like, oh no, like I'm too tired. So like, there's this programming that there's a lot of factors at work, but the simple fact is they're not prioritizing their own joy. They're not prioritizing their own happiness, the things that they love. Right. And so that takes a mind shift. And so what I'm creating is essentially a remembrance of your own curiosity, remembrance of your own joy, and then prioritizing that within yourself and say, okay, well, I'm going to do these 5 things or these 3 things that I'm saying that I really, really love. And I used to do as a kid, and it brought me so much joy and presence that I'm going to actually start doing them every single week. I'm going to put it in my calendar, and I'm going to respect the calendar, and then I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to have some kind of accountability to make sure that I'm doing the things that I'm saying I'm going to do, so, and that looks like a lot of different ways, so it could be supporting people in retreats. It could be, the product that I have, the self-mastery operating system. And, again, what I'm embracing is, this is my beingness. This is what I'm embodying. And so as I move forward, the opportunities for me to express that or support people will just fall in my lap as needed. So it's trusting the path of who I am and what I've embodied. Then I can find more creative ways to share this idea or to harmonize it with other people's paths, because one of the things that I'm really good at is to embody something and then articulate it to somebody else. And so just the very nature of how my journey happens, I can usually articulate something where it makes sense. It makes a shift within somebody. So that way they can actually take action or implement on these things that they've known for years, but they still haven't yet implemented, So, yeah, implementation, embodiment, those are, keystones for me. So because I've embodied that frequency, that when I speak about it, it usually sparks some kind of, embodiment, action or implementation, and adding this thread of playfulness in there. So like you're talking, it just, it's a really beautiful, trajectory, keystone, thing to do. And yeah, and I'm continuously experimenting with play every single day.
I love it. I love it. I love everything you described there because it is so perfectly balanced. Like you talked about how you can take the ideas, the playfulness, bringing in the ideas of what you loved as a child, but then the structure and the commitments at the same time. And both are so important. So that's amazing.
Yeah, the structure allows for the rewiring within your mind and your body to happen. Because if you don't have to think about being playful, isn't that what everybody wants, right? So if we have to consistently strategize and think about being playful, that means we haven't yet fully embodied it, and who knows if we quote fully embody play, but, I think that, there's a place where you can get to a really beautiful sweet spot to where, yeah, you'll strategize about play, or you'll talk to people and have conversations about, this is how we did this thing. It's like, oh, wow, I haven't even thought of that. Or, and so this is where this creativity of an ideation of play can occur, and, bringing it into conversation and into the mental space. But as we play more, as we apply play, not only in just like the quote hobbies and free time and vacation, but we incorporate play into our work and play into the serious moments, when it feels right, then we're embodying a playful work environment. We're embodying a playful approach to creation. And so it definitely takes effort. It definitely takes work. But I think that if that sounds, like something that you like want to pursue, just get around people to cover your blind spots. That's why these communities of like just having nurturing conversations in community, to where, like you tell them what you're reminding yourself of, like, oh, I want to be more playful. And then everybody's saying, okay, yeah, let's be more playful. And then 1 week, a month from now, everybody's like, damn, we haven't been playful, like let's,
totally.
Everybody kind of feels the blind spot, and we're like, okay, what are we doing that we could upgrade this approach to being more playful, but having that honesty, having those, different perspectives and blind spots. So, probably, retreats are one of the most beautiful things, community, and those really allow us to, actually implement and shift and transform the things that we say that are important to us, and hopefully mostly a nurturing and compassionate way, but sometimes that tough love is needed too. And I'm always appreciative for those, brave souls that are willing to speak the truth, even though they may be temporarily not received well. But, as long as it's coming from a good heart and, absolute love, you can deliver anything with love, and including tough love.
Yeah, it's necessary too. Again, balance, right? Like you need all of those parts to experience the full spectrum. And we need those people in our life. We don't just need yes men to say like, whatever. Yes, go play all the time, or yes, whatever. But to help shine a mirror on some of the areas that we have to do the hard part too. Do it all together. And that's what makes the difference. There's so many amazing things. I feel like exactly as you said, you have this ability to kind of activate some embodied change just by the way that you talk about these things. I feel that already myself with this conversation today. I hope that people that have been listening do too. I'd love to tell everyone where they can find more of you in their life and how they can kind of follow more of what you're doing and see where they may be able to work with you if that is something they desire.
Yeah. So, my website, lanebelone.com, that has, most of my stuff. So I have a weekly newsletter. It's called Joyful Sovereignty Weekly. And it's just me exploring the cutting edge of my mental ability to articulate what I'm talking about, And so as I'm articulating it, then I can continue to embody it. And so that's for family leaders, creatives, entrepreneurs, and it's a weekly dose of cutting edge wisdom, from my perspective. And it's been really fun to explore that. And social media, I'm at Increased Freedom. Mostly on Instagram and Facebook, and also I'm doing a little bit of Twitter now. So, but yeah, anywhere on social media at Increased Freedom, and different platforms have different kinds of expressions. So, so it's been fun to explore all this, and thank you for the conversation. It's been really beautiful. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So amazing. I love it. I am going to have to go back and listen to the whole thing again and just really embrace everything that we talked about because it was so beautiful. For everyone who's listening, we'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that you can go check out more. I love making sure that I check out Lane's stories on Instagram because they're really grounding, I think, for me when I see them. They're really beautiful. So definitely go check him out, follow him, engage, sign up for the newsletter, and explore what it might look like to have more of him in your life. And if you're listening and you haven't already subscribed, please take a moment to subscribe to whatever your favorite platform is. And, maybe give us a star review. Although if you're feeling like a 1 star, you can skip it. That's cool too. No, thank you for listening. Appreciate you being a part of my world and my community. To all my listeners out there, thank you so much, Lane, for this amazing conversation. So grateful for everything that you've brought to this podcast and to my world today. It was truly a blessing to have you on.
Yeah. Thank you for creating this container. It's a beautiful message. Thank you.
Thank you.